Welcome to What You Don't Know About Sports, where we delve into the forgotten stories, teams, and athletes of sports history and question wildly held takes on today's sports. I am Matt, and this is Blake.
Hey, everyone.
And today we're going to do something a little bit different from our normal episode structure, but we did just do one similar to this with our Thanksgiving-themed episode. But we're going to talk about something. There are a bunch of tiny little things that we couldn't make into a episode independently, so we're going to stick them all together. And today, we're talking about the unwritten rules of sports. They're the things that everybody kind of does, and sometimes people really hate them. How do you feel about the unwritten rules of sports, Blake? Where are you at on that?
Some of them make total sense, and I can really appreciate when they're followed, and when they're not, I want to run out onto the field and cause some ruckus, if you know what I'm saying. But some of them are just silly, and to me, they're just silly and outdated and stuff. And I hope we get to have a moment here because we don't know each other's lists. We've each made lists of unwritten rules, good, bad, or worse, and we're gonna run through a few of them. And I hope there comes a point in this. I kind of hope there comes a point in this where I think something is just absolutely silly, and you try and talk me out of it.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna draft these, and they can be unwritten rules that we like or unwritten rules that we absolutely hate. Either one works. So kind of the best/worst unwritten rules of sports. And because I am the more experienced and wise of the duo here.
Old. Just old.
I mean, it's like a negative connotation adjective. I don't feel like we need to be negative right now. But
I'm sorry, I love you.
No, I'm getting to the point in life, which is weird. Somewhere you hit a spot where, I've always had respect for tradition and things like that, but you get to a spot in life where you're like, wow, yeah, that really stupid thing absolutely makes sense. I get why that's a thing. And you start defending the man shouts at cloud kind of situation. I can see how that becomes a thing for people. I mean, not all things do I think are old or right, but I think in digging into what some of these unwritten rules were and hearing the yearly, it's June and we need something to talk about on sports radio. Let's criticize the unwritten rules of baseball. That's a good one. Hearing that constantly, I'm like, no, what you guys are saying is trash. There's a reason why this happens. So yeah, I think this will be interesting.
I'm excited.
Should we flip a coin to see who goes first? Or
I don't have one.
I don't either. You can go first. You can go first. I did the intro, so you go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So the number one in my draft, and I'm going to start with one that I wholeheartedly believe in. Okay? Kneeling for an injured player. I think that's one that just, if they're actually injured, okay? Let me rephrase. If they're actually injured, not if they're Neymar rolling around on the field, but if they they're hurt.
Not Paul Pierce needing to take a poop. That's not.
No, that's not an injury. No,
right.
like Alex Smith's leg. You get down. You just pause for a second, pay your respects. Like Dak Prescott's ankle. You just think of any of the bad ones, right? You just know that's not good. It takes you less than a millisecond to look over and say, "Holy crap, that must have hurt. That's serious." And you just stop. You just kneel silently until let the training staff do their thing. Don't take away from the moment. Let them concentrate. Don't be rude. Just do it, okay? Whether you like the person or not, just be respectful, okay? Just do it.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that one too. That's good. I can see certain people, the personality type or maybe a person that's like this, where they're like, nah, I hate that dude. I'm not kneeling for that dude. I don't respect that dude. I hate that guy. Nah, I'm not doing it. Which would be stupid. But there, I know people that would be in that camp. Like, nah, I don't like him. So, yeah, I agree with you. Though.
Just because you would, it's all about, it's all about, it's all about giving what you would expect in return, right? If you were down, if you were down with like with a life threatening leg injury, right? And dude that you've been fighting for 3.5 quarters is standing on their sideline laughing at you for being down, you're gonna be pissed, right?
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
okay. Not okay. So just like if would you teach your children, your kids, to intentionally be disrespectful to another human being in that manner?
That's right. That's right. And if and one of the things that I teach in school is to be aware of what's going on around you. Because especially like if you think about a football game, there's 106 players between the two sides. So they're in little meetings or they're on the other side of the thing or they're looking at, if you're Robbie Anderson, you're figuring out why a panther looks like a bear to you on the sideline, right? All these things are happening. Look that up. Look that up on YouTube, folks.
Yes,
Robbie
yeah,
Anderson.
that's a great clip.
Didn't know what the panther was for the Carolina Panthers. Anyway, there's a lot of things going on, and you may not catch that somebody's hurt, but you've got to be aware of the situation. And like you may have been in a funny conversation 2 seconds ago, but you don't want it to look like that you're laughing at the person who is hurt, because that happens in school all the time. Like we'll be reviewing something that's just absolutely dreadful and terrible, and like the kid beside you farts, and you really want to laugh, and you do, and then I'm like, you just laughed at insert XYZ, right? Like you just laughed at this horrible event. That's what it is. And you're like, no, I didn't laugh at that. And you're like, but 20 of us were talking about this and you laughed. So it made it do that. So I'm with you. I'm with you. Somebody gets hurt, kneel. If you see a bunch of people kneeling, just by default, you might want to do it until you figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'm with it in a sporting context. I like that. All right. My list is mostly not baseball related because it's always baseball and people hating old baseball people when we talk about old unwritten rules. So I just want to show there are unwritten rules in other sports. I'm going to go with this one, number 1. Regardless of the sport, do not celebrate on the opposing team's logo, whether that's the logo at center field, center court. You run over to I don't know where you would do this in baseball. There really aren't logos on the fields. But yeah, don't celebrate on the opposing team's logo. Like Terrell Owens that one time scores a couple touchdowns in Dallas, and plants the ball at center field on the 50-yard line, does a pose until finally, I think it was Emmitt Smith goes and just
knocks his head off.
Him, right? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Even though it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. There are people that have invested time and money into, it's one of those stupid things, right? It's a logo, who cares? But there are people that have invested time and money and interest into that. Just don't celebrate on that. So go do what you got to do somewhere else.
Somebody did that recently in the NFL, and I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't widely covered like that one had been, like the Terrell Owens one did. Who was that? Do you remember?
I can't remember. The one that most recently pops in my head is and it was funny, but Baker Mayfield trying to plant the Oklahoma flag into wherever they were that was AstroTurf, so he's just slams it down and just bounces. Number 1, you look like an idiot. Number 2, you look like an idiot twice.
Was it Texas? Was it an Oklahoma Texas game?
Maybe Texas Tech.
Shot in the dark. Yeah, I don't know.
It was somewhere on turf though. But yeah, just don't do that. Don't do that. Because no matter what happens, nobody is going to come out of that thinking better of you for having done it, right? You gain nothing from that.
Yeah, well, in their minds, they've earned the right to do it, depending on the outcome and the score of the game, I guess. I'm not saying that what they're doing is right or that people should do it, but in their minds, say you're Oklahoma, you go into Texas, and you just wipe them. You absolutely wipe your rivals. You're going to feel like you just dominated that other team, right? So in your mind, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be funny. This is a good thing." And then, like, of course, he bounces the thing off the AstroTurf, and that's hilarious. But I get it from a competitor's point of view, but I also agree that it's in poor taste.
Well, we've seen like fights in college football break out over this. Like people like I cannot. I think it was Florida and Michigan, maybe. I think Florida was involved. People dragging their feet on the logo at center field, like trying to tear it up before the game
Yeah,
starts. And it's like I know you're feeling yourself. I know you're hyped. If you scored a touchdown and you're doing this, right? You hit a big basket and you're doing this, like you're really excited. You're proud of yourself. You're in that moment. And it is easy to do really stupid things when you're in that moment. Like I get that. And I'm not even doing this from like a act like you've been there before situation. Like I'm not saying that. Like celebrate all you want. But what you do when you do that on somebody else's field is you invite that to be done on
on
yours.
your field.
And now you're in this hypocritical position of, well, I'm mad that you did it here, but it was fine the last time. But now I'm mad and we got to fight. And it's like, just save yourself from the position of being a hypocrite and just don't do it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You put yourself in that. You put yourself in that situation at some point where you're just inviting it, and then you can't be mad about it. But that's I can get behind that. That one's cool. The next one for me, this one angers me almost, and it's not like it. Okay, so I'm gonna talk this out. Football players celebrating at unnecessary times. Okay, mostly happens only in football. And the ones that piss me off the most, pardon my French, is the defensive players who sack a quarterback, or even just like a tackle for loss, like, and they just like start jumping up and they celebrate. Like, bro, you're down 4 touchdowns. Relax. It's What did you just do there? You did nothing. You didn't like you. Okay, when I say you did nothing, you did your job. Your job was to make that tackle. If you didn't do that, you'd be fired. Okay, so celebrating your basic job functions. No, no. You're a defensive lineman. You line up to get a sack and you get that sack. You did your job. You didn't do anything extraordinary. You didn't do anything that's never been seen before. Cut the crap. Don't celebrate a sack, especially when you're losing. That is just it's disgusting to me for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just like, it gets me riled up when people do that, especially when they're losing.
It's because you're losing. Yeah, it's because you're losing. And I am generally pro celebration, but I'm with you on that one. Like my favorite football example is the corner is chasing the receiver. The quarterback launches the ball, and it's 5 yards past where the guy is. And the corner starts making the incomplete sign. He starts like jawing at the receiver. Like you didn't do anything.
He wasn't even close.
You were beat. The quarterback overthrew it. You should be like going and shaking the quarterback's hand. You should be giving him a gift card, maybe asking him where his favorite restaurant is, but you should not be acting like you had anything to do with the incompletion. Like that's where I draw the line. It's like if you're gonna celebrate, at least have made a play, right? Like I don't.
Yes, yeah, and to me it's a little, and this was the counterpoint to my argument a minute ago, but for some reason Panthers fans for a while there hated when Cam Newton scored a touchdown because he did the Superman symbol thing, like he pulled his shirt open. You scored. At least you scored. Like you put something on the board, even if you're losing, you scored. Like your example or my example of like this just random defensive tackle, like, oh, I got a sack. Yeah, no, the cornerback one's a good one too, because like you said, they got beat badly. They did nothing to screw that play up, and they're celebrating it for some reason. Like they don't deserve that.
Yeah. Generally pro celebration, but I can get with you on that. Don't celebrate the bare minimum of your job. Like I get that. My second one is one that I also agree with, and this comes from the world of soccer. If you ever watch soccer, when someone gets hurt, the ball is, as soon as somebody notices, it is best practice to put the ball out of play, so that the game can be stopped and the injured player can be attended to. Obviously, in the event that they're actually injured, and most of the people on the field know the difference between the guy that's rolling around and trying to get a sympathy foul and the guy that's actually hurt. But yeah, they put the ball out of play, and in return, right? So that's a change of possession. So in return, when play resumes, the other team just launches it toward the goalie, and the original team, Team A, if you will, gets the ball back, and we resume play again. So you sometimes see it where it actually derails an attack, but they still say, hey, nope, he's hurt, and they just kick it, over the sideline, and then they get a drop ball and give it back to the other team. And I like it because we don't do this in American sports. We are very much cutthroat. You see it in basketball the most. Somebody goes down on a hard charge block foul that doesn't get called, even though they both are down on the other side of the court. I hate that. But anyway, somebody's down on one side, but it's not the side that play is on right now. So it's a 5-on-4 on the other end, and they let it go until, the ball's coming back this way. A lot of times in hockey, they will stop it, but not always if somebody's down. And people look at that as a good thing, like take advantage of the 5-on-4. But really, you shouldn't. Really, you shouldn't. And in soccer, you aren't supposed to. And I dig that unwritten rule in the name of sportsmanship.
In the example of hockey, though, if somebody gets hit hard enough to where they don't get up on one end of the ice, the thing that's going to stop play is the fight that ensues between the bully on the team of the guy that got hurt and the dude that hit him. Because hockey don't play that mess. They'll start a fight for anything. And so I wholeheartedly agree with the soccer one, because it's just the right thing to do. And of course, the difference. And you see it sometimes too, where you're playing somebody like, they just fall and they're rolling around and they're screaming, and like they can't decide what part of their leg hurts, so they start holding their ankle, and then they move up to their knee, and then they're holding their hamstring, and they're like, oh no, but it's my ankle, and then they go back down. And you're like, you can see the guy like throw his hands up into the air on the other team, right? He shows his frustration, and he still kicks it out of bounds just because he knows it's the right thing to do.
I like it. That's a good unwritten rule to me. I love it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. That was also on my list, so I can appreciate that.
You.
Yep.
Stole it.
Yep. That was a good one. So I kind of have I don't know if this, I'll go with this one. I've never seen this happen, right? But in good research, I decided to look for some that I may have not known about. And this is one I did not know about. And when I read it, I laughed out loud, okay? Apparently, it has been done before where two hockey guys come together, they sling their gloves, one of them gets hit just to bait that guy into a penalty. Like like they weren't prepared to fight. They throw their gloves down, and then they bait the other guy into hitting them. Don't fight to get the offsetting penalties or whatever. They bait the other guy into hitting them to get the penalty. And then they just, I don't know what they do. Do they just like ball up or just not fight back?
So I guess the unwritten rule is to not be that guy that.
Yeah. Like if you drop your gloves, you fight, or you just don't drop them at all. But like, don't drop them, get punched in the face, and then like you bait the other guy into a penalty. Have you ever seen that before?
I've not seen that. I can believe that happened. I think the way the rules are structured now is that you would still get an instigator penalty. You wouldn't get the 5-minute major, but you would still get like that instigator penalty for egging it on. But at some point in the past, like that's not a historic rule. That's like a recent development in hockey. So at some point, that would have been a thing where you could just kind of needle. I can see that being a Brad Marchand.
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
I mean, the guy like licks people. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he would fake a fight just to get you a 5-minute penalty.
Oh, that would be so good. Oh, that would be good. Did you see recently on social media where some news reporter was like, the head coach of the Boston Bruins approached Brad Marchand and told him to stop licking players, and Brad Marchand quotes that, and beneath it just says, "No, he didn't."
No, he didn't. That should be, you know what, this is not my pick, but that should be one here. I don't think it goes without saying, but if don't lick other
Just
people
in any sport.
in any sport, or like the Lance Stevenson deal where he was like blowing in LeBron's face. Like, don't do that. You just like you can't fight somebody for that because then like. But you have to fight them at that point because they flicked you or they blow your face.
You just got
that
licked.
Weird situation where like I'm LeBron, I can't fight you because then I'm done for the series. My team is going to lose, but I have to fight you for this situation. Don't do that.
LeBron's face after that happened too. If you've never seen that clip, LeBron's face after Lance Stevenson's like blowing in his ear, he just like smiles and shakes his head. It's pretty comical. He tried to get to him and he didn't, but it's a funny moment.
My next pick, I'm going against former Rutgers, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and current Rutgers, because that's the way it works up there in Jersey.
Everything is legal in New Jersey.
That's right. So former and current Rutgers head coach Greg Schiano once ran afoul of this, and I think football people would agree. If the other team is in victory formation, and they're dealing on the ball to end the game, you should accept defeat. Concede that the game is over and be done. Greg Schiano actually would instruct his players to dive at the knees of the center, fight forward, try to force a fumble. And it comes from the mindset of, well, you got to play from the whistle to whistle, boys. You got to go out there and get it done. Don't give up anything. And it's like, no, Greg, you're down 17 points. This literally is just hurting people for no reason at this point. You're not winning. Just concede.
That's Bountygate.
That's part of sport, is to know when you're beat and to acknowledge when you're beat, right? Like, don't,
Yeah. There comes a time. Well, for one thing, you shouldn't be out there intentionally trying to hurt people. You just like that. That's not part of the sport. That's unless you're getting paid for it, like Bountygate, but that's a different story. You should be out there playing the game the way I really don't want to use this, but I'm going to. You should be out there playing the game the way that it was meant to be played. And
you sound like an old timer. I love it.
I know. I regret it already. But you're just supposed to play the game. You're not out there trying to hurt people, especially like what is a college get like. Greg Schiano being of the whatever stature he is,
it's about the same size as a trash can,
right? So nice and round, okay. And if he instructs a college kid to do that, they're not going to stand up to him. Like, it's their livelihood, it's their money, it's their education, it's the sport, it's their family, it's everything relies. He's taking advantage of these kids at this point. He is just whatever, but. And Bountygate was the same way. Jonathan Vilma on the Saints, like just tearing people apart for no reason.
That's
oh man, yeah. And speaking of that one, my next one is running up the score for no apparent reason, right? So especially the one that's super frustrating is like basketball. And because like you're up in football, it's fine. The same kind of goes for, I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but like go for an onside kick while you're already ahead, or go for two while you're like far ahead. And it's like those sorts of things. Especially, who was it recently? Was it in a college game or was it in a pro game where the basketball player at the end of the game, like they were already winning and dude went for like the biggest tomahawk dunk of his life. And that's just in such poor taste. Like you said, just accept your dub. Don't bring shame to your family. Don't bring shame to your team and your school. Just take the win and leave.
I'm never forgiving Ty Lawson for a dunk at the end of an ACC tournament, NC State Carolina game. Hard fought game, as they are in the ACC tournament. Questionable calls, as usual, in the ACC tournament. But that's neither here nor there. And it's time to run the clock out. It's under 30. I think the shot clock was 35 then. So it was under 35 seconds left. Dribbling out the ball. State players are walking off the court. Goes and dunks it at the buzzer. Like,
Oof.
For what? All right. And I know people hate that. People hate that unwritten rule is an unwritten rule. That's one of the ones, like the running up the score rule, that everybody is like, well, that's a stupid rule. I should be able to score as much as I want. If you want to stop me, if you want to stop the rule, you should stop me. And it's like, if they could stop you, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. They have proven over the course of this contest that they are unable to stop you. It's why you're winning. It's why you're winning by a lot. They can't do it. There's no need to show anybody else that they can't do it. Don't continue to run the score up. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't help anything. It just makes you look like you're trying to pad your stats. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
At what point you just don't have anything left to prove? Like if you're that far ahead, what else are you improving your draft stock by dunking on a team you just beat by 20 points? No. You're not doing any of that. If anything, they're going to see your real character and you're going to fall in the draft. You're not doing yourself any favors. Yeah. You're not getting any endorsements. Oh, look how high I can jump when no one's defending me. Like no, you're not. There's just no good comes out of that. And that's one of those where you end up like fighting on the Dallas Cowboys star on midfield because that's just not something you do. So I have one more basketball one, and it reminds me of like the Last Dance documentary that we all watched recently, when the Pistons walked off the court without like acknowledging, like before the game was even over, and they walked off the court without acknowledging that they lost because they were sad. That's what I'm going to blame it on. They were sad, just sad. And I understand it in NBA games now, like they don't line up like in college, and they don't like shake and pat all the hands and kiss all the babies and stuff. But especially in college, like, again, just acknowledge how well the other team did. You should be upset that you lost, and you should go back and work on whatever you got to work on. But just don't be that sore. Like, I'm a sore loser, and I hated losing a sports game and having to shake the other team's hand, but it's just something that you do. You don't just like walk off the field or walk off the court without doing something like that.
Yeah. And I think Isaiah Thomas tried to defend his all of their actions, because I guess when they beat Boston 2 or 3 years before that, the Celtics players did the same thing to them. So they were just repaying the favor. But at some point you have to say, you know what? No. You beat me. Y'all beat us. So yeah, you're worth a handshake. It's the one thing I love about the NHL playoffs. It is very childish, not in the negative sense, but in like the youth sport sense. But at the end of every series, they've in many cases fought. In many cases, they've taken dirty shots at each other. They've done all kinds of stuff to each other for 4, 5, 6, 7 games. But immediately it's, glove off, handshake, everybody goes through the line, and there's never a problem there. They do it and they move on. It's one thing I like about hockey. I love that you do have to show sportsmanship, and you should, because it's sport. And to be a sportsman matters, not to be, whatever the opposite of that is.
Unsportsmanlike, question mark.
That's a penalty in the NFL, right? Unsportsmanlike.
Hey, that is a written rule, folks. Get with the program.
Here's another rule that never gets broken, because if it does, I think body parts get broken. But it is an unwritten rule in hockey. You do not shoot the puck after a whistle. You never shoot the puck after a whistle. And it's for good reason, and a lot of these unwritten rules, even ones people disagree with, exist for a reason, right? In this case, the goalie is literally absorbing 30 to 40, sometimes if things go off the rails, 50 shots. Those pucks are really hard. I don't know if anybody's ever picked one up. They have heft to them. They are weighty. They are hard, and they are moving quickly. And I understand the goalies have padding, and it is like space age technology that absorbs the blows. But at some point, you're taking a puck to your body over and over and over again. And I got news for you. If somebody shoots it and it hits you in your helmet, there is no protection there. Like, I don't know, that's painful no matter what. So it's a safety thing. Don't shoot at the goalie who, when the whistle blows, is giving up, right? He's not paying attention anymore because it's supposed to be stopped. You launch a shot, we're gonna have to fight. Probably everybody's coming for you at that point. So yeah, that's a good unwritten rule to me. Don't shoot the puck at the goalie after the whistle.
Yeah, the safety aspect is big because the goalie's just not paying attention, right? Goalie might have his back turned. What does the goalie do? What does the goalie do after every time that like the whistle's blown? They either like they get out of their stance and they might do a lap around the net, or they might go to the bench, or sometimes they just stand up, turn around, grab their water bottle. Right. Well, when they grab their water bottle, there's no protection in the back, folks. They're not playing goalie with their back turned to the puck, okay? So somebody might not be paying attention and just full fire a puck at the net where the goalie's not paying attention and hit them somewhere where there's no pads. That's just ignorant. Absolutely ignorant. And that's similar to, like, I love it when in basketball a player shoots after a whistle and somebody just goes up and grabs it and doesn't even swat it. They just jump up and just snatch it out of the air. It makes me so happy.
The old Celtics thing, you can't let them see the ball go in the basket, so we're just gonna.
Yep. They either block it out of the way just to get in their heads, or they try and snag the ball out of the air or something. But yeah, when somebody goes up and they can just like snatch that thing with one hand, it's beautiful. I love that.
I'm gonna do a baseball one now that we've sufficiently proven that baseball is not the only sport that has unwritten rules. I am going to give a baseball one that is slightly controversial. People get in, midsummer sports fights about this because there's nothing else to talk about, I guess. You should never bunt to break up a no-hitter or a perfect game. You should never bunt to break up a no-hitter or a perfect game. I say that because if you were coming up in the 8th or ninth inning of a regular game and there was one out and nobody on base, and you would not be bunting, as evidenced by the fact that you have never bunted in that situation in your career. Looking at you, Francisco Lindor, like 4 years ago. You've never bunted in that situation, but now it's a no-hitter, and I'm going to bunt to break it up. No, you don't get to do that. It's more an entertainment aspect than it is sports. I am normally against the idea that sports exist solely as entertainment. I think those are two different things. I think if you want to be entertained only, you should just pull up Netflix and watch scripted entertainment. I think if you want to watch sports, which is about the athletics and the contest, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, and it's not always going to be the most dramatic thing, I think you should watch sports. But in this case, I think the entertainment value is there. If you are a person who is tuned in to watch, or you're a person at the stadium during a no-hitter situation or a perfect game situation, you are getting invested in that. You have a potential to see history. There's only been a finite number of those things that have happened and that will happen. So to see that broken up when everybody on the field is like already kind of like nervous and on edge, and then you're going to throw a bunt in, come on, don't do that. For what?
Yeah, especially when it's not warranted, right? But like if you're in a situation where you want your guy to steal a base, like maybe he's walked, right? Maybe it's still a no-hitter, but he walked somebody, and you want somebody to steal a base to get into scoring position because the game's still close.
Go for it.
I'm all for it.
Go for it.
Because it's still competitive, but like nobody on base, and even in a blowout too. Like say it's 8-0. and the pitcher is just having his way, right?
You're not
And
bunting in a real game in that situation.
no shot you would ever do that in any other circumstance other than to try and prove what, like, the game's gone, right? If and especially in today's league where everybody tries to hit home runs, and like, I feel like that would be more disrespectful. Like, if you're trying to disrespect the pitcher by breaking up a no-hitter, I would want to smack the longest home run in the history of baseball off this dude way more than I would rather just like nick a cheap shot and then make it to the base first.
Yeah. And there are people out there that will say, no, you should be prepared for the bunt. If you really want a no-hitter, you should be able to get me out when I bunt. I should be able to do everything in my power. And it's like, yes, I get it. You're right. But if you would not bunt in the same situation, right? If the one you gave was there's a guy on because of a walk, and maybe I'm trying to sacrifice him, maybe I'm trying to throw a surprise because it's still a close game, that's something that you would do in a normal baseball situation. But 4-5-0, and you're just bunting like, get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. Like that, no one wants to see that. But people defend it. They're like, yeah, it was totally the right thing to do. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, that's just silly. I've got another one that I think I've always thought was just obnoxious. Like, when I was little, before I really understood the unwritten rules thing, this would happen, and I'd be like, it's coming. Swing. The fact that you're not supposed to swing on a 3-0 pitch.
Okay, hold on. Is it a normal 3-0 pitch, or is this Fernando Tatis Jr. and it's 10-0? There's a blowout. Is it a normal game, or is it a blowout? You got to be clear.
The blowout thing goes along with what we've already said. Like, if the game's already out of reach, but if you're in a competitive baseball game, why in the world, that man can throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball whenever he wants, and he's just had 3 bad pitches. It's coming.
Yeah.
You better swing that freaking bat, man. What are you letting that ball go by you for? That is the dumbest thing.
I think that's one of those like strategic manager decisions, unwritten rule as for a manager to say, like, you got a guy up there and you're like, nope, don't swing. Put the take sign on 3-0. It's like, yeah, walks are good, but this is going to be a strike. So how about
it's going to be a good one. It's coming.
Yeah, the Fernando Tatis situation.
That was rude.
Okay, now when that happened, everybody was all about hating on the unwritten rules of baseball. They were like, why is anybody upset over this? Let the guy hit a home run. He knew it was coming. You wanna get him out? Don't throw the ball down the middle of the plate. How about that? And it's like, okay, let me fill y'all in on something. Even in a 60-game season, I get this was a 60-game season this year. It was very short. In a full season, though, just put it in perspective, it's 162 games. There is no one on the field. There's no one in the press box. There's no one on the grounds crew. There aren't very many people watching on television and are spectating that want to be there anymore when it is 9 or 10 runs up. No one wants to be there. It is time to go home. You got a 3-0 count. The bases are loaded. He's going to throw you a fastball down the middle. Take it. You know what? Don't even take it. Swing and miss. Swing and miss the next one. Swing and miss the next one. I'm not saying you got to strike out on purpose, but you want to go eat dinner. The other 49 guys on the roster want to go eat dinner. Everybody in the stadium wants to go home and go to bed because it's a 162-game season and you're up 10-0. Everybody's quit. So you should quit too. Like, that's what got me about that, is that's a situation where sometimes you'll see a position player be pitching because it's time to give up. Like, the bat flips are cool. Jacking home runs are cool. Stare down the pitcher if you're going around the bases. Like, I'm fine with all that. But it's a blowout. Like, it's what we said before. Like, don't pad your stats in a blowout. Just take the W and go home.
If you want to pad your individual stats with no further repercussions, go wipe somebody in tennis 6-love, and be done with it. Play for that's the sport you need to go play for yourself. Yeah. Don't be selfish on a team game. It's bad taste for everybody. And side note, I love a good bat flip. Good
I love a
night
bat flip.
when Jose Bautista throws that thing, like he literally grabbed
Yeah.
it and he threw it. Oh, that was so good.
I had the good fortune. I had the good fortune of watching that inning because it was just an inning. Like it wasn't even the whole game. It was just an inning. Like they had a little rivalry that year, but that inning, and Bautista was the best at those situations. Like I don't know, that's because it's fun. A side Jose Bautista story is he hit those home runs in those like FU situations regularly. There's one time like Adam Jones from the Orioles was kind of talking trash to him, and I think somebody threw behind him in at bat. And the next pitch, he jacked like upper deck. He's running around the bases, looking at the pitcher. Adam Jones comes running in from center field. He's like cussing him out, and I think he hits a home run the next at bat too. So in that game, that playoff game, when everything's going crazy and they think they're getting screwed, like I don't know who I was watching the game with, but I looked at him and Bautista came up in that situation. I said, "This is gone. This is gone. This is a home run. I don't know how he does it, but this is gone." And sure enough, like just bang,
Gone.
That was an all-time great moment.
That was
Bat
good.
flips. So yeah, so I'll take this one. I'll take this one since we're talking about it. You should act like you've been there before. I think that's a bad unwritten rule. I think if you score a touchdown, you can celebrate. Regardless of the score, if you score a touchdown, you can celebrate because that's the whole point. Like, be happy, be excited. You jack a home run, you want a bat flip, you want a slow stroll. The Ken Griffey Jr. just kind of a couple of steps to admire it. I love it. I love it. I love the pitchers striking a guy out and jumping off the mound and just screaming. Like, that's intensity. You're putting everything into the sport, and you want to show how good this has made you feel. I love that. Like, I am all for almost all celebrations. Now, if you hit a free throw and start doing cartwheels down the basketball court, like we've got a problem. That's excessive. But for the most part, I find celebrations fun and intriguing. Like they get boring. Like the whole NFL like turnover, the whole defense has to go and pose thing is starting to get old, but it's still fine. I mean, it's still cool. And I found that if you go back and look at tape, like in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, they celebrated too. Like,
Yeah.
like it isn't a new thing, but everybody's like, "Oh, these kids these days." Like,
Kids
nah.
these days.
Yeah, like when you were a kid, you were doing some celebrating too there, buddy. All right? So just chill.
The one that the only time, and this goes back to an earlier one where you don't celebrate doing your job. In a way, it's like if say you're down 4 touchdowns and you finally break through and score. Don't do some silly choreographed like you're rowing the boat with your teammates, or like don't spin the ball, pretend like it's a hot fire. Like at that point, you're getting your tail beat. Just pick up the ball, put your head down, and you got work to do, bud. Like you no, because that's only going to make the other team even more mad, and you're going to lose by even more now. Just put your head down, respect the score, and get back to work. Okay, now when you're the Patriots and you overcome a 25-point deficit in the Super Bowl, when you start with like maybe not the first touchdown, maybe you're like, "Oh yeah, good job, we did it." Maybe not the second touchdown, you're like, "All right, I feel something." When you take the lead in that situation, do whatever the heck you want. Don't celebrate a touchdown down by 4 of them. Like you got a long way to go there, bud.
I get that.
It's a little excessive.
Give me one that you think that like you dislike, but that you think I can sway you on. Do you have any on your list that would do?
Here's a funny one that I don't necessarily agree with, and I can explain why. It's an unwritten rule in most sports that, other than hockey, that if a teammate of yours gets into a fight, you are expected to join them. Why? What? To quote the great Lonzo Ball, and I use great sparingly, to quote Lonzo Ball, these dudes ain't really fighting out here. What are you fighting for?
That's fair.
No, man. Like, baseball's the funniest one. From the freaking bullpen in the outfield, everybody's like,
Yes, sir.
no,
Yes, sir.
no. Keep
Yes.
yourself. What? You didn't even see what happened. You're 400 yards away. You didn't even see what happened. You keep your fat selves out there in the dugouts, and you just keep warming up, buddy. Don't even worry about what's going on.
I I disagree though. I disagree
What?
because all right, here's the deal. So that's I don't know. It's like that camaraderie thing. It's like that's your team. That's supposed to be your boys. That's who or girls, depending on what sport we're playing. That's supposed to be that's who you're in the context of the sport. That's who you're fighting with. That's who you're trying to win with. And so if somebody's disrespecting your friends, you got to be there. You got to be there. So everybody's got to go. You can't. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. What if you're the only person left, right? Like somebody's throwing at your dude and 23 guys rush out and like you're just sitting in the bullpen, like eating your popcorn. Like
You're the
can't be
only
that
one
guy.
that stays on the bench.
Yeah, it's like a fear of missing out situation at that point. Like you can't be the last one.
So here's the thing. If you're gonna do all that work, don't just run up there and be like, "Oh, I just want to be nosy. I just want to see." Like, it's so silly. Okay, so it's like this toxic masculinity thing that consistently frustrates me in like everyday life. That's what I equate it to. Is like you come out of the bullpen in right field, you run all the way to the pitcher's mound because your buddy pitcher hit somebody and they got mad. You're gonna run all that way and do what? Tell me what you're gonna do when you get there.
What are you gonna watch?
You're gonna just stand there.
That's
You're probably still got your popcorn in your hand. You're not doing anything constructive. You're going to run just to look. If you run down there, you better hit somebody.
yeah. That's the one thing. That's the one thing that I will say for most sports is that there aren't fights. Right there are pushes and shoves and hitting face mushes. Like very rarely in not hockey do you get the situation where like who is it? Robin Ventura rushes Nolan Ryan and Nolan Ryan just lights him up and just starts drilling him in the face. Like that's technically not a fight. It was just like a assault, but like
That's a crime. That's a crime.
I think you're killing him at this point. But yeah, very rarely do you get an actual fight. Very rarely do you get like the Malice in the Palace situation in basketball. But in hockey, now hockey's the one sport where if people go, they're gonna go.
I can appreciate that.
Like you get the full like the goalie fights. Like once everybody's out there fighting, so then the goalies are gonna go at it too. Like,
They're just like,
and that's what you're talking about, right? Because the goalies have no reason to be fighting. They're not. They have no beef with each other. They are separated by the full rink of ice. They're not even saying anything to each other. But there has been several times where all five guys are fighting. So. The goalies go at each other. That's a good unwritten rule too, that I think is stupid. In hockey, you don't fight the goalie.
yeah,
The goalies don't fight regular players.
Yeah.
Goalies will do the onlyest stuff. They will do some terrible things to these guys that are posted up out front, and like sometimes they deserve it. But goalies will get away with slashing at dudes like calves and ankles in front of them. Goalies can get away with some really like. Just really disrespectful stuff, and the player, like the regular player, cannot do anything to the goalie, and because if they do, the goalie just backs up, and like the defenseman or whoever the goon is going to come take care of it. But like, so like, I think that's a terrible unwritten rule. Like, I think it's good that you stand up for your goalie because you know he's literally saving the team most of the time. But you got to reap what you sow, man. Like, if you're doing enough stuff that somebody wants to fight, like, hockey's a sport that allows fighting. You got to be willing to take the fights. Same thing with Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand never fights. He does all that weird stuff, and then somebody steps up and takes the fight for him. Like if you're gonna dish it, you got to take it. So I'll take exception with that unwritten rule.
So yeah, two thoughts. If I'm an O lineman and my quarterback gets hit and somebody on the defense is being disrespectful, you better come over and knock some sense into that dude, because that's a situation like the quarterback is like the goalie in hockey, where like the quarterback's not going to do anything. Like they are absolutely, if there's anybody on the football field who is the farthest thing away from physically intimidating, it's your quarterback, right?
And
Sebastian Janikowski, you want to fight that guy? That dude's huge. No,
mostly
it's your
not
frail.
Because he's huge, but because he might be involved with the Russian mob.
No, he'll just kick you. No.
Pat McAfee was a big dude too. Yeah,
see, they're in decent shape, right? Like you're gonna walk up, you're not gonna. Who's gonna be afraid of a frail old Eli Manning? Not a soul. Nobody's afraid of that dude. So your O lineman's got to step up, right? That's cool. Number 2, what if baseball allowed the fights, but only if those 2 people fought and nobody else? And all the umps circle them, right? Like in hockey, they just show up, do whatever the heck you want until somebody hits the ground, and then you break it up and they're thrown out of the game, and that's the end of it. No needs for benches to clear, no need for any of that. It's all show. Nobody's going to run out there and do anything. Just it's all show. It makes baseball games longer. We don't need them any longer. Just stay in your benches, stay in your dugouts. Let the 2 people who are mad get it out of their system, kick them out, and then we go on about the game.
The ones I've got left are like basically the same principles we talked about. Not stealing bases late in blowouts because, it's a blowout. Like, just let's go home. Not undercutting somebody on a layup or a dunk. That's like a safety thing, but you shouldn't do it unless you played for Detroit in the 90s. Yeah. That's what you got. Any other ones that you can think of?
No, the maybe like stealing a base in baseball was the other baseball one that came to mind. Like just take the result and leave. Don't be rude. Don't be ignorant.
That's the thing. Because most of these, if you really think about everybody like hears unwritten rules and they're like, a bunch of old people came up with this dumb things we got to follow, and like some of them are, but usually it's. Even if it's a sportsmanship thing and you think sportsmanship's stupid, it also is it's a time-saving thing. Like, know when you've won, know when you've been beaten, and act accordingly. We get comebacks happen, but everybody that's playing knows when the other side has quit. Everybody's playing knows there are plenty of quotes from both college and pro athletics where they know that the other team's given up. And they know when they gave up, and they know exactly like what caused them to give up. And from that point forward, we're all aware that the game is over, even though there's time on the clock or outs to be made. Most of these have to do with those situations where it's like, yep, we've conceded without being able to do it because we're professionals, but let's end it and go home. So,
agreed.
Speaking of ending it and going home, it's time.
Yes.
It's time to get out of here. So if we missed an unwritten rule that you can think of, or you disagree with us and you think that some of the ones we thought were good are actually bad, or you're somebody that thinks the ones we thought were bad are good, let us know. Reach out to us on social media and tell us about your favorite and least favorite unwritten rules. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with a brand new episode. So until then, enjoy your time. Goodbye.
Bye now. Thank you for listening to this episode of What You Don't Know About Sports. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review, 5 stars only, please, and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen. If you have a great sports story, we want to hear about it. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WYDKAS Podcast, and on our YouTube channel at What You Don't Know About Sports Podcast. All episodes are written, recorded, and edited by us. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Welcome to What You Don't Know About Sports, where we dive. No, not very much. Not it.
Are we diving? We can dive.
We can dive, delving, diving. That's the same thing, right?
I don't know.